Okay, so we left off with deceptively fattening foods. These are foods that may say low fat, low calorie. They may even, like this box of Special K, claim to help you lose an inch from your waist. But in reality, all these foods are loaded with carbohydrates and will really make it difficult, if not impossible, for you to lose weight no matter how much exercise or anything else you're doing. And where most people get in trouble is with the grains: corn, wheat, rice, potato starch. These grains are what make up the majority of most people's diets. We eat cereal for breakfast, bread for lunch, pasta for dinner, and you see why we're in the mess we're in. So we left off this section with talking about the vegetables and the fruits that are going to slow you down, that you want to avoid when you're trying to burn fat. So that brings us to group 3, and this is an interesting group. This group is loaded with healthy fruits and vegetables, good dairy, nuts, very low sugar fruits like berries. So this is the way to think of this group because they still have carbohydrates in them, or a good amount of carbohydrates. Not a lot, but a moderate amount. For most people in the American population, if most people got off this junk food and the deceptive fattening foods, and they switched to foods like this, they'd lose weight because you would be cutting out so much sugar, so much carbohydrates, so much insulin, and for a big percentage of the population, they'd lose anything that they want to lose belly fat wise just by switching to these foods. But for sensitive individuals that have really bad problems with insulin, they've abused their diet for a long time with a lot of carbohydrates and sugar, like most of us have in this country. Even the small amount of carbohydrates that are in these foods might be enough to keep them from burning fat. So here's another way to think of these foods. Whenever you lose what fat you want to lose, when you've reached your weight loss goals, there is no problem whatsoever with eating these foods. But when you're trying to burn fat, and again, you want to get those insulin levels to as low as possible, this might be just enough carbohydrate to keep you from burning fat. So this is a kind of a hidden area of frustration. People eating really healthy diets, but still not burning fat. So things like beets and carrots, tremendously healthy foods for the liver, great vegetables. Everybody should be eating them on a maintenance basis, but when you're trying to burn fat, you might need to get them out for a while. Melons, apples, peaches, grapefruit, much lower carbohydrate than the fruits that we talked about in the last video, like the bananas, mangoes, things like that. These are great dairy products, whole fat yogurt, and again, plain. So we talked about the sweetened yogurt. That had 22 grams for that small little serving. This has about 10 grams for the same amount. So much, much less carbohydrates. Cottage cheese, excellent protein, much better breakfast if you put some berries or peaches in cottage cheese than eating any of those cereals that we talked about. Here's a popular one today, the Greek yogurt, but again, you want it to be plain. So these are things, again, these plain dairy products, they have a lot less sugar, but they still have some lactose sugar in them. So you just have to use them with caution. And if you're not losing any weight doing this, then you need to drop them. Same with the nuts. These are great snacks. Lots of protein, good fats, but a moderate amount of carbohydrates. So if you're not losing any weight, you want to think about trimming the nuts a little bit more. Berries. Oh, nut butters before we go on to the berries. Very healthy, great snack. Lots of good oils and fats in there. Berries are the lowest sugar fruits generally as a rule. So berries will always be better than bananas. So berries, very popular for putting into protein smoothies, or we talked about the cottage cheese, yogurt, things like that. So again, these are foods that you probably would lose weight on, but it's not as guaranteed as our fourth group. That brings us to group number 4. This is the accelerated fat burning aisle right here. So the first things we're going to talk about are the vegetables. Now, you notice there's lots of green stuff on here. Greens are your best veggie when you're trying to burn fat as quickly as possible. They're the lowest carbohydrate, lots of fiber, which slows the absorption of the carbohydrate in there. But these are some foods that are great on any low carb diet because they keep variety. Like if you're making omelets with your eggs or foods to include with your meats to keep from getting bored and burned out with things. Mushrooms, olives, tomatoes, avocados, cauliflower. You can make great low-carb mashed potatoes with cauliflower as a substitute, or mashed potato substitute with cauliflower. Cucumber, squash, zucchini, great vegetables. And again, these are your best vegetables that you want to load up on the most. The lettuce, green beans. These are the superstar liver detox vegetables. Broccoli, asparagus, Brussels sprouts. These are the foods that make a very happy and healthy liver. And the better your liver works, the better you burn fat. Your liver will be your friend or your foe when you're trying to burn fat. If you're drinking lots of fructose or high fructose corn syrup or lots of grain carbohydrates, your liver's going to turn that to fat. But this has the opposite effect. These foods help your liver burn fat. So treat your liver kindly when you're trying to burn fat. And that's what these vegetables really do. Now, even though these are great vegetables to include, and again, nobody's going to get fat from eating these foods. They're just so low carbohydrate. But the only foods that are zero carbohydrate and the ones that you want to make the majority of your diet are animal protein and animal fat. And this is where the controversy begins. When we talk about these being great foods for losing weight, nobody has a problem with that. But you still hear a lot of people saying that saturated fat and cholesterol, meat, eggs, especially red meat, things like that are bad for you. Nothing could be further from the truth. And these are your foods that are your absolute best friends that you want the majority of your diet when you're trying to burn fat. Best breakfast, the absolute best fat burning breakfast is eggs with butter. So if you haven't seen the eggs and butter video that I did a few years ago, I put a link at the bottom of this video. So important to watch that because these foods are still being demonized because they have saturated fat and cholesterol. And that's exactly what you want. That brings us to a really important point. One of the weaknesses of just trying to live off of green veggies when you're trying to lose weight is they don't have protein and they don't have fat. And when you don't have enough protein and fat in your diet, you will never be satisfied with your meals. You may have learned that the hard way. When you don't have enough protein and fat, you are always going to crave carbohydrates or go straight to sugar. Go right to those Oreo cookies. So that's why protein and fat is so important. That's why eggs have been found to be the most effective breakfast for losing weight over any other breakfast because the good fats in that egg yolk and the good fats in the butter will just keep you satisfied so much longer. Same with red meat. Same with the deli meats and cheeses. This is the fat burner's best friend. Good deli meats with cheese to wrap up when you're on the go. You need that protein and good fat quickly. Great source. This is another easy one. Tuna. These are the dairy products. We mentioned that those dairy products like the yogurt, drinking milk, those have lactose sugar. These dairy products do not. When you do most cheeses, you want to check the label. Most cheeses are zero carbohydrate. Same with cream cheese. Very good because it's got a lot of fat. And I know that's shocking to a lot of you watching this, but the more fat, the better. If it's the right kind of fat, the good, healthy, saturated fats. This, if you drink coffee, this is what you want to put in your coffee over milk or half and half. Heavy whipping cream. This has zero carbohydrates. Another great thing about heavy whipping cream is you can make the best whipped cream and berry desserts with it. So if you just go online and look for low-carb whipped cream berry recipes, you'll find a lot with that. Whipped cream, the heavy whipping cream is great to put into whey protein shakes too. Now we're going to do a video just on whey protein, how it can help you be a really good addition to a weight management program. But the weakness of whey protein, it doesn't have fat in it. So when you put this heavy whipping cream in your whey protein shakes, it keeps you satisfied longer. And again, fat is critical if you're trying to get off these addictive foods, and that's what these foods are, especially this group over here. You've got to have protein and fat. You're not going to succeed if you don't have enough protein and fat in your diet. And that's why these animal foods aren't just okay. They're absolutely necessary. So, got good shrimp that we can make. And one of the best things to cook that shrimp in is coconut oil. Coconut oil is the most underused food for people trying to lose weight. It's the healthiest oil to cook with, and it's the best oil for reducing cravings. You can take it by the spoonful before a meal. If you have trouble, just always or never being satisfied with a meal and always wanting more sweets, coconut oil before a meal is an excellent way to lose weight. Always seems to help with cravings. We've got good sugar-free hot dogs, sausages, and yes, even bacon. You can get good nitrate-free, organic, sugar-free bacon. So again, animal fats and protein, and we're going to put more links to this, are your best foods for burning fat. Now, if you're concerned about that, or if you're skeptical about everything we've talked about with these foods, these high-fat, high cholesterol, high-calorie foods being the best to lose weight, you really need to read this book, Why We Get Fat and What to Do About It. This is the conclusive proof. If you need proof, if you're skeptical about these things, what Gary Taubes does is shows that this type of diet, this very low carbohydrate restricted diet, is what's been known for hundreds of years to be the most effective for losing weight. It wasn't just Dr. Atkins that came up with that. This has been around forever, and he documents that with study after study, even back in the 1800s, people writing about it in medical journals. But these are foods that have just been demonized in the last century, so you need to arm yourself with the information of why these foods are not dangerous, and again, your best friend when you're trying to lose weight. So let's say even if you're not trying to lose weight, if you take nothing away from this video, if you can get off of these top row foods, the grains, the fruit juices, and especially the heavy sugar foods, high fructose corn syrup, refined white flour, and if you just get on these bottom aisle foods, everything that you see on the bottom aisle, even if you're not trying to lose weight, you're going to have more energy, you're going to decrease your risk for most of the major degenerative diseases, heart disease, arthritis, diabetes. Half of the population is estimated to be diabetic, I think, by the year 2040. It's because of these foods. So even if you're not trying to burn fat, this is the optimal diet for everybody to be on. So I hope you got a lot out of this, that it cleared up a lot of confusion, and enjoy burning fat.